Kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to our Look Good, Feel Better Q&A session on early August. Look, we apologise for the delay in getting started. You know, the old technical monsters that want to play up at the very end. So welcome to our session this afternoon. We're really excited to have you all on board. And I hope you're all coming from somewhere nice and warm and comfy around the country. So we're going to get started with our workshop. Just before we do, I'll just want to let you know how the workshop is going to run. My name is Rachel Utamapu, and I am a facilitator for Look Good, Feel Better. I run the community classes in Taranaki, as well as do the Q&A online session, and also have done some of the men's sessions as well. So the way our workshop will work today is if we could have everybody on mute, and I think you're all pretty much on mute around the room, which is fantastic. We're going to have our fabulous guest speaker is going to be speaking to us for around about 40 minutes. And then what we'll do is we'll take the opportunity to have a really good Q&A session. So yeah, if we leave the questions till the end. Now, if you'd like to ask a question, you can use the put your hand up function, or you can write the question in the chat box. And if you can't do any of those, just wave your arms and we'll be able to get your questions answered. So what I would like to do is I would like to introduce our wonderful guest speaker, Josh Roche. Now, Josh is a former soldier who went on to spend time as a monk in India. Now, these two experiences were foundational in creating a lifelong fascination and study into the mind for Josh. Josh is a long-term practitioner of meditation and yoga, and he trains life coaches and clinical hypnotherapists. He runs his own high-performance coaching business and is heavily involved in skydiving, mountaineering, and paragliding. So he has a huge array of interesting things in his kitty. Now, Josh is going to chat about using mindfulness during challenging times, and he's going to explain the benefits of how to use mindfulness. For managing profound challenges and in these challenging times for you. So everyone, I would like to hand it over to Josh, and look forward to hearing from you, Josh. Welcome.
Okay, great. Rachel, thank you so much for the introduction, and thanks to everyone behind the scenes who's putting this together for us all. So great to see everyone here, and welcome to this very brief little mindfulness introduction. I hope you get some good takeaways and find benefit in this stuff. And a quick hello to Paul. I can see Paul lurking out there. How you doing, man? Good to see you. So yeah, look, as Rachel said, these ideas around meditation and using the mind and mindfulness came from the military to begin with. How to work well under long-term challenging environments with a lot of pressure, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of ambiguity, all that kind of stuff, and how to stay perhaps focused on the right kind of outcomes, and how to not wear ourselves down or not break ourselves down with anxiety or fears or doubts and all that sort of stuff. How to steer the ship of the mind, or focus the mind on the right kind of things, and those things then reflect positively back on us. So we're just going to go through a few ideas around how our perception and what we're focusing on can reflect back into our own experience. And what I mean by that is the body's always listening to the mind. If the mind is focused on stressful inputs and is focused on perhaps negative futures or challenging times ahead, mindfulness can be such a tool to bring us back into the moment, so we can just stay connected to our bodies where and how they are now, instead of overloading our bodies and mind with possibilities that have not yet come to pass. Mindfulness drives, or meditation and mindfulness drives the mind into the present moment, things are often, not always, but often more manageable when we can just keep ourselves in the here and now. The mind has that tendency to fly off into the possibilities of the future, or look into the past and maybe regret choices, or overanalyze things that could have been done in the past. So we're looking to sort of keep our minds just focused in the moment, in the immediate sort of surroundings that we have, instead of wasting energy and time on possibilities. We're just dealing with the current environment, the current realities, if you like. Um, so as I said, the body's always listening to the mind. And what does that mean? What it means in essence, in the context of this call today, is there are things in the bodies. Most of us are probably aware of hormones and neurotransmitters. So in this context, if we're focused on um, really challenging things in the future, things that are in the calendar that are approaching us, and we're overly focused on those, and they might bring up a stress response in the body. So what's underwriting the stress response? Cortisol, adrenaline, you've got histamine, you've got all these inflammatory, excitatory neurotransmitters in the body. So by overthinking about potentially negative possibilities in the future, we're soaking the bloodstream, we're flooding the bodily tissues, the brain, the muscles, the heart. All of the body's tissues are being flooded with these inflammatory hormones, and we're creating an environment, an inner environment, a physiological environment that is really adverse to healing. So, talking about that one side, the cortisol, the adrenaline, the histamine, what's on the other side? And on the other side, you've got things like you've got serotonin, you've got dopamine, you've got anandamide, you've got these other neurotransmitters that come from the rest and digest and reset um, side of the nervous system. So you've got the up-regulating side with the histamine, adrenaline, cortisol. Then you've got the down-regulating side, which is the rest and digest and repair. Repair's the word we really want to focus on with these kinds of ideas, because we want to try and repair the bodies. We want to try and repair the bodily tissues. We want to create that inner environment where the body's taking care of itself better. And as I said previously, if we're overthinking and overanalyzing potential negative possibilities in the future, then we're upsetting the body's natural healing ability. Um, so yeah, serotonin, anandamide, dopamine, these things are really, really beneficial to the body's tissues, and also just the way we think of ourselves and all that kind of thing. So very briefly, what are ways we can affect those systems? What are ways we can activate the rest and digest and repair system? So you've probably heard of all these sorts of things before. So breath work is one. Breath work is a fantastic tool to that's right there. You don't have to go out and buy it in a shop. You don't have to um, pull up some kind of information on your phone, or look or Google search on the internet. Your breath is there all the time, and it's the most um, useful tool that interfaces between the mind and the body. You can regulate the mind with the breath. You can regulate the body with the breath. You can regulate them both at the same time with the breath. So understanding how breath work affects these neurotransmitters, if we're stressed and we're worrying and we're doubting and we're facing uncertainty, all these sorts of things, there's a general tendency for the breath to start getting higher up in the lung. They call it clavicular breathing, the collarbones, the clavicles, and that's at the expense of oxygen exchange, because oxygen exchange is enormously calming for the body. If we're highly oxygenated, that fights cancer just on itself. Now, 80% of the oxygen exchange happens in the bottom of the lung. So by utilizing deep belly breathing, we're switching on so much more potential to oxygenate our body. So deep belly breathing, I highly, highly recommend deep belly breathing. That's a very, very simple thing to do. All we do is, as we inhale, the abdomen expands, so we're pressing that diaphragm out. We're pulling the air into the lower lung. We let it sit there for a while, and then we just expel that air naturally. There's no need to force it out. Inhale through the nose if we can. That really connects to the lower lung. Really expand the ribs. Make it a little bit of a practice. Sit up tall, open those lungs, get that abdomen open, and then exhale. So that's one thing I can highly recommend, is just simple, deep belly breathing. If we go to visit a specialist, we have some really challenging news, we get a adrenaline response, a cortisol spike, we can get out of the medical specialist or whatever situation we're in, whatever environment we're in, and we can get back to the car or get back home and go, okay, that was some pretty heavy news, some pretty serious news. That's the reality. That's my situation. Let me take a moment just to process that out. We don't have to stay stressed for the rest of the day. We can face our bad news. Then we can sit down and put that aside. Now we've got this. We've got the information. We've got the situation, but I don't need to boil myself in fear and negative thoughts. So think about the breath. The breath is always a great go-to. I've worked with a number of people who get great benefit from just simply being focused and disciplined on maintaining that lower lung breath, because as I said, 80% of the oxygen exchange is happening in the lower lung, oxygenating the brain, oxygenating the tissues, the bloodstream. We're more positive. We get the higher mind function operating as well, so we're more able to think critically. We're more able to be creative, to solve problems, all of this sort of stuff. So those are the things that accumulate, that are downstream when we're making a focus or a practice on deep belly breathing. It's just very calming, and it keeps the mind open. When we get stressed, the opposite is the case, obviously. So we get tunnel vision, we get very focused on limited possibilities. Shallow breathing, clavicular breathing, and stress, when they're hand in hand, when they're happening at the same time, we get very worried about potential futures. We can't see other options. We get very focused on the negative. So if you get into that kind of rut or that kind of feedback loop where we're worrying, we're doubting, we're uncertain, the breath then comes up into the shallow level of the lung. We start breathing faster, the heart rate elevates, and we're pumping that cortisol and adrenaline faster and harder into the body. And that can create, it can be quite a problem. We get really stressed out. And if we get stuck in that, the way out of that is just to really take a moment, sit back in a chair, close the eyes, and just connect with that belly breathing. As I said, the abdomen expands as we breathe in, and then we pull that belly in actively. We actually contract the abdomen, push that air out, and we cycle those stress hormones out of the body, so they're not sitting in our systems. It's worth having a look at. There's a website called PubMed. Perhaps some of us have heard of PubMed, published medical journals. It's just PUBMED. If we go on PubMed, there's a search bar on that website. You can enter mindfulness, cancer, breath work, recovery, treatment, all these sorts of things. And there's an enormous body of research that shows the efficacy of these extremely simple, completely free, cost-effective interventions that are already with us. So I highly recommend breathwork to manage stress, to manage anxiety, to manage uncertainty, all that sort of stuff, just to give ourselves that ability to reset and to come out of being really stressed out and highly aroused about some kind of, as I said, some kind of potential uncertainty in the future. So have a think about breath work. I use that all the time. As Rachel said in the introduction, I'm doing a lot of stressful activities, and I've always used it to navigate challenging times. And my mum suffered from cancer some years ago, and unfortunately she did pass 10 years ago now. But breath work was a massive tool we both used when we visited specialists, when we had bad news, when we came home, when we were facing these uncertain futures and these challenging times. The treatment phases were extremely challenging, and we understood the benefit of using breath work just to get through the day as a focus tool, instead of putting the mind on other things. it was very wholesome and nutritious to just stay with the body and breathe and just learn that art of acceptance we get these impactful when we get impactful news from specialists, etc. So again, breathwork, give it a go. It can be a real thing. It can be a massive benefit. So give that a turn and read a bit more about it with that PubMed website I recommended. There's an enormous body of peer-reviewed research. It's not some weird you know hippie kind of thing that's on the outskirts of what's useful in medicine. It's There's 30 plus years of very solid research around these things. Same with mindfulness. Go to PubMed, enter mindfulness, and you'll see the same kind of body of research. There's 40 plus years on mindfulness. It's very compelling reading. So breathwork. Um, Obviously, meditation is awesome for keeping us out of that fight, flight, freeze response and getting us into the rest, digest, and repair state. So we'll have a little go at some basic mindfulness meditation shortly. Um, Gentle exercise is fantastic, i.e., walking. Walking's amazing. Just to go out and have a walk if we can. The sun, the breeze, the fresh air, the trees, the bird song, all these sorts of things are very, very good for us. So that's another way to regulate ourselves, to manage ourselves, get outside, even if it's just sitting on the deck with a cup of tea. That sort of stuff is awesome. Getting away from the phone or the TV or that sort of thing, and just bringing in some natural energy. We're as a species, very connected to the natural world, and it's very beneficial to go and get those kind of inputs as regularly as we can. It resets us, and again, studies show that sort of nervous system reset when we see trees. They've even showed if you look at a photo of some natural environment, the brain ECGs, they all show this down regulation of stress and this up regulation of positive supportive neurotransmitters. So just nature is phenomenal. It really is. Walking on the ground with no shoes, soaking up those natural vibrations. They call that earthing. I mean, there's all these things that don't cost a thing, that are perhaps just outside the back door. So nature time is awesome as well. It really helps. One other thing I've got here before we have a go at some meditation, just information and media management. Like, how much information are we taking in? What kind of information is it? Is it supportive of our current state? Is it useful? Does it lift us up? Does it make us laugh? Is it beneficial, or is it not? Is it the opposite of those things? Does it confuse us or frustrate us or make us angry or whatever? Politics, the state of the world, etc. We can all see some pretty crazy things out there, and it's not to deny reality, but it's just about regulating how much media and how much information we're bringing in, especially relative to managing the stress response that we have in our bodies, understanding how how it can be detrimental to the healing process. Too much information overwhelms the nervous system, overwhelms the brain. We want to try and keep things as simple as we can to optimize that healing environment that we're trying to create inside the body. So I recommend having a look at that. I read recently that people now, as a general analysis, are seeing the same amount of information in one day that a person alive 100 years ago would see in their entire lives. So we're being bombarded with an enormous amount of information these days, which is quite a staggering thing to think about. So again, just think about where you're at with your current situation, and what's the optimal healing environment inside the body. What does your personal physiological situation need to feel rested and calm and relatively positive about the future, or relaxed in your current environment right here and now? Think about that. The body loves nothing more than when the mind is with the body completely. When the mind is far away, surfing the internet or worrying about the future or analyzing the past to find out how and why we find ourselves in our current situations. There's a disconnect between the mind and the body. It's very, very healing to bring the mind into the body over and over and over through the day. There's some kind of integration that happens that's very calming for the body. There's almost a subliminal anxiety that the body responds to when we're thinking far away from the present moment. That's been studied as well. So it really is worth just bringing the mind home a few times a day just to rest the body, because there's always that subliminal anxiety. Something, the body thinks something's missing. The body thinks it's under threat in some way, and all that really is just a lack of present moment awareness. So think about that. Bring the mind home can be really useful. A couple more points before we have a go at a little guided meditation. The right type of people around us, that can be massive, for these kinds of situations we might be in right now. Be careful about who you include in your inner circle. That might be worth just having a look at as well. I know, again, when my mum was going through this, she really closed a lot of the curtains on the house, so to speak, and disallowed a lot of people who didn't really have supportive or productive or positive things to bring to the table. So that's really worth thinking about too. You know, boundaries, that goes in that conversation too. So boundaries, learning to say no, not putting too much stress and strain on the body, on the mind. What's your priority? If your priority is managing a treatment phase, then that's the priority. That has to be the primary focus. And if people are there to support that, and they understand what good food is and what good conversation is and what good information and media is, like we just talked about, then those are the people. They're the ones you want to be leaning on. But if people are coming around and they're awkward and they don't know how to relate to you while you're in this situation, and they're not constructive, or they're really struggling with where you're at, they might be struggling personally with the situation, and that's fine. That's fair enough. But understanding that I've got this, whatever it is, I've got 6 weeks of radiotherapy, I've got whatever, chemo coming up, like I need these strong people around me. So just think about that. It's another piece that might be a good part of the puzzle to look at. So have a think about that. And saying no, I touched on saying no again. Just that ability to create healthy boundaries, and to be able to manage ourselves while we go through these challenging times. And lastly, just we've kind of touched on it too, but energy management, that sort of goes in that same space, managing our energy. And that's always going to be, a kind of up and down thing. How am I feeling today? I'm feeling not too bad. Let me perhaps go out and have a cup of tea with someone. That might be the right kind of thing. But understand that other days, the body's just really struggling, and we just need to say no to stuff. So obviously energy management, it goes without saying. But all this little segment of the call really is around what's your personal optimal healing environment. The physical part, the emotional part, the friends, the social part, the perhaps the spiritual part. We might be thinking about mortality, or these kinds of massive questions. So understanding all those different levels of healing and facing challenge, like what's each of our own personal optimal healing environment. So just have a think about that. What kind of things do we need to just put on the shelf for a while? What kind of things do we need to bring in and keep them front of mind while we're going through this challenging phase? And understand that it's a dynamic journey. There'll be ups and downs. So just understanding energy management, that really was the central theme to this first sort of 25 minutes or so of the call, was just what's our personal optimal healing environment. The food, the people, the house, the workload, all that sort of stuff. What do you need it to be? And don't be afraid to ask for it. So yeah, energy management. That's our first little section of the call. So if you've got, again, any questions please write them down, and we'll have a little chat at the end of the call. So let's have a little go at a very basic mindfulness practice. This is just very, very simple. There's no weird stuff going on. All it really is just counting and breathing. So I'll invite you to get comfortable, and you don't have to write anything down. It's, it really is just simply breathing and counting. So if you're interested, look, it's going to be 10 minutes. It won't take long. And you might get something out of it. And again, it's just like the breath work. You don't have to go anywhere to get these benefits. You don't have to see a specialist or a therapist. You can just do these things by yourself, and it really helps just to regulate those neurotransmitters to come back to a center within ourselves, perhaps, where we're not getting pulled too far out into the future. We're not looking back into the past to whatever makes sense of our current situation or whatever. We're taking a breather from all of those mental gymnastics and just giving ourselves a bit of a pause, at a neural level, at a nervous system level, at a thought level. 20% of the calories we consume is spent on the brain. So there's a big energy cost with a lot of thinking. A lot of us overthink. I'm guilty of that too. That's why I make these kinds of practices central, so I can balance myself out. But a lot of energy is spent thinking. And I really understand the situation some of us might be in right now. There's a lot of contemplation going on, a lot of questions that might need answers, etc. And that's taxing as well. And these kinds of practices are just really beneficial where we give ourselves a break from all of that thinking and feeling and all of perhaps hearing this heavy news from wherever, various places. So again, I invite you to get comfortable. Again, only 10 minutes or so. So if you'd like to close your eyes, please go ahead. Just relax. You don't have to close your eyes. I might close my eyes. It's no big deal. If you do have your eyes open, just relax the focal muscles in the eyes. Just really relax the eyes and relax the brain, relax the visual cortex, which is in the back of the head, base of the brain kind of thing. So all we're doing is breathing in through the nose if we can, out through the mouth. And we're just following that exhalation, all right? As we breathe out, we just focus on that exhalation and just really let that go. Let the out breath go. And just let the facial muscles go. As we breathe out, we're just relaxing. We just want to really just settle the mind, settle the body. So think about the facial muscles. As you exhale, those are relaxing. The facial muscles are relaxing. And the neck muscles are relaxing, the throat. And then just allow that relaxation, like a slow motion wave of relaxation moving down through the shoulders, the rib cage, the arms, the abdomen, the wrists and hands and fingers. That relaxation is just rolling down the body, down the spine, coming into the hips, down into the upper legs, down through the knees, all the way through the calves and shins. And you're just breathing. Just again, pay attention to that exhalation, the out breath. And that relaxation moves through the ankle joints, the feet, all the way down to the tips of the toes. So just pay attention to the body as it's relaxing like that. That really is the nervous system slowing down, the breath slowing down, the heart rate, the brain waves. And we're just settling. It's called settling. This first few minutes of a meditation session, we're just settling down. So just observe that process. Body's relaxing, mind slowing down. Now, the primary job that we have while we're meditating, while we're doing this mindfulness thing, is to just observe the thinking mind. Just observe the thinking mind and just observe the body, the sensations on the inside and the outside of the body. This is our chance, this is our time to just not react. To not react to the body, not react to the mind. The observation, the witness. We're just the witness now. We're not doing anything about what the mind is telling us or what the body is telling us. This is our chance to have a reprieve from reaction, analysis, past, future. We're just sitting here watching the show, nothing more. So just breathing and observing. No analysis, no past, no future. And when you go with a thought, or when you go with a sensation from the body, let it go. Let it go and come back to this witness, this observer perspective. And now, just as a gentle focus tool to keep the mind occupied at a very low level, now we're just going to become aware of the breath as we neutrally observe the breath. It just is what it is. It's shallow, it's deep, it's fast, it's slow, it doesn't matter. It is what it is. We just observe, we just watch. And at the very end of the out-breath, the exhalation, we just count 1. And at the end of the next out-breath, 2. And then of course 3, 4, all the way up to 10. And just really let that exhalation lengthen and deepen. And then drop that number right at the end of the out-breath, right at that still point, just before the body wants to draw more air into the lungs. That's where you throw your number, right at that still point at the end of the out-breath. And again, every time we wander off with the thoughts or sensations of the body, nothing wrong, that's natural. We're not fighting against that. There should be no conflict with this stuff. Everything just flows. Oh, I've gone off with a thought, fine. I'm aware of it, I'm just watching now. Back to the breath, back to the count, and smilingly start again. Very gentle with ourselves in these times. This is the chance for us to heal, self-directed healing. So let's just sit quietly for another 2 minutes, so we can just have a good little experience of this process, this slowing down. We're down regulating ourselves, calming, soothing, nourishing. No matter what the body's doing or the mind, we're just watching those two things. That's our job, it's just to watch. And then on top of that, we're breathing and counting. Okay, great everyone. Look, we're going to start coming out of that little session. So just when you're ready, take a deep breath or two. And when you're ready, just opening the eyes and coming back into your room, back into the session here. And just again, just observe how that felt. What went on there. So as we started the call, what we were doing there is taking down the brain waves, going right down into the alpha waves. We're slowing the breath down. We're slowing the heart rate down. And all of these things are symptoms of the rest, digest, and reset. Rest and digest side of the nervous system. So this is where the dopamine, the serotonin, the anandamide, all of those lovely healing neurotransmitters that are so nourishing for the tissues of the body, for the brain structure, etc., and just the personal self-image, the self-reflection, the ability to cope. What we're doing is creating a fund or an inner resource that we can tap into when times get really challenging. We've got this resource that we're cultivating daily by doing these practices, especially if it's daily. Like, it doesn't have to be this massive commitment. It can be 10 minutes a day where we do just that thing, and we get the nervous system reset. We rest the brain, we rest the thinking, we take a step outside this constant thinking, past, future. We're never really in the moment. By doing these things, we can take a pause, really be in the moment, get centered, and we find that there may be more resources, more inner strength to be able to deal with the future. If we're not thinking about the future constantly, we take a daily break from all of those thoughts about possibilities in the future and give ourselves a break from the reactivity and the emotionality and the whatever, the overthinking, the catastrophizing, all these possibilities. We take a break from that. I'm not saying those thoughts are wrong. They need to be there. We need to navigate these times, but it's just that ability to have a pause, to press the pause button on all of those possibilities. That's really beneficial. Gives us a break. And as I said, it builds this inner resource um, that we're constantly cultivating, which may be really useful. So there's a really basic takeaway meditation practice, everyone. Again, just practice it. Build that fund, build that resource, and you'll find that that it will be there for you when those challenging times come. It's a great tool just to sit down, take 10 minutes, and do this thing and just watch what happens. Just pay attention to the body letting go of tension and stress and worry and concern and effort. It shouldn't be an effort to do this. We're taking a break from effort and striving and all this sort of stuff for the duration of our meditation session. All of that stuff is suspended. We're not doing anything. We're not thinking about doing anything. We're just watching. And that center line of neutrality, that might be quite beneficial. So if it's a new thing, then practice that. Just observing, being a witness, the pain of the body, the sensations of the body, the worry about the future, those things, we can't fantasize our way out of those things. They're a reality. But being able, the trained ability to just observe those things, that can offer, that can be a window into a different kind of experience. So just the ability to watch our experience instead of being subject to it constantly, making ourselves subject to it constantly, we can just watch it. Um, and that my mum and I practiced these kinds of things when she was going through a lot of her treatments, and it was extremely beneficial to just observe and to not be in it so much. So have a little play with that practice there. Very, very easy. You just take a few breaths, get centered, get settled, and then just start that breathing, that watching that exhalation, lengthening it, deepening it, and at the end of that exhalation, just throwing those numbers up to 10. And I just want to touch on that reset, that ability to drop thoughts, to just drop a thought, come back to the breath, back to the count. We get taken by the body or the mind, we drop that and we come back to observation, back to that neutral witness perspective, again and again and again and again and again, dropping thoughts, dropping thoughts, dropping thoughts. And what we're doing, just like we would be if we're going to the gym to train muscles of the body, we're training this muscle in the mind to drop thoughts, to come out of that habitual ruminating, brooding on negative possibilities. So we're just coming out of that. If it's a default, when we hear something, we go to a specialist, we hear something, there's that automatic process of analyzing, comparing, judging, positioning, etc. If we don't have that process and we create this new default of just observe, then we're gaining so much energy. We're nourishing ourselves with this witness perspective by being uninvolved with our own thought process. And that might sound simplistic to say, but if we create that default to just observe instead of react and react and react all day long, we have more energy at a nervous system level. We're able to heal the tissues better because we're not reactive. We're just observing, 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 observing. So there's what you could call a net energy gain through the day because we're able to self-manage better. And it's not that we have to have this elaborate mental imaging sort of system going on. It's just completely neutral observation. We don't feel bad or good, or we're allowed to still feel these things and we need to do that. But we've got a third option, which is neutrality. And that can be extremely liberating when we're in really, really long-term stressful environments. I'm just going to watch. I'm just going to watch instead of worrying or fearing or doubting or being unsure. All of these normal, natural things that come up. There's this other option. Yes, I'm allowed to feel this way. It's natural that I have fear. That's to be expected, and you allow yourself those times to look into things in that way. But you've got this other option. Okay, that's enough worry. That's enough uncertainty and doubt. Now I can come out of that. I've got a tool to come out of that. Let me close my eyes. Let me take 3 long deep breaths, and let me just observe my psychophysical experience for 10 minutes. And you've given yourself that pause, and that's again very nutritious, very beneficial for the body. And okay, look, got my notes in front of me here. I've covered everything I want to cover. We've gone already 50 minutes, so that was fast. So I hope people got some benefit from this. It's very simple. It should be simple. It should be easy to remember. I breathe and I throw numbers into the end of my exhalation and I just observe. That's the 3 key takeaways, really. Breathe, count, and watch. Breathe, count, and watch. And don't go with the thoughts. If you do, just laugh. There's nothing wrong. It doesn't matter. It's natural. The mind thinks it's natural. Bring it back to the breath. Start again. And that's as simple as it gets. You can do that anywhere, in the car, in the supermarket, at home. It goes anywhere. And the same with the breath. That first one I started with today, just breathe into the belly, just observe those two, the breath work, the mindfulness meditation, they go hand in hand, and you'll be able to really come out of those challenging states, with a bit more positivity and a bit more control. It's nice to feel that too. Okay, team, look, that's me. I'm going to open it up for questions. So thank
Fantastic.
you. Thank
Josh, that's absolutely wonderful. It's Rachel here back again. And
Great.
firstly, just want to thank you for your session. And I guess the deep belly breathing was super helpful when we were trying to get through the tech issues today to get online for a start. But what I want to say is, hey, thank you for that meditation session. That was just a lovely session. And even for myself, sitting here and experiencing that was, it actually was, it was just beautiful. And I feel like I'm going to go into the evening now and just have a completely different I guess approach to it, or just feel to it. And so we've got some lovely
Right.
comments here, and one here from Paul, and we know Paul from our men's workshops, is Paul says here, the body gets used to the relaxation and you can slip into the meditation more easily over time. So, and then you start to look forward to it. So is that what you've found, Josh, is that you can slip into it quicker, or is there sometimes where it's harder to get into it than others when you're maybe a little bit more stressed than other times?
Yeah, you got it right there, Rachel. And great comment, Paul. Personally, I've been doing it a long time. So as I was talking about those defaults in the mind, I've got a pretty well established default in my mind to go to the breath, to think about a good word I can use to focus on, etc. So yes, to your point, Paul, absolutely agree. But then also agree with what you're saying as well, Rachel. In a highly stressful environment, especially when you've got a fastball out of nowhere and you weren't aware that was coming, perhaps, then yeah, you can be challenged by that too. But I think
Mm,
it's worth mentioning, like if you're practicing this stuff daily, you won't boil yourself in uncertainty and fear for very long. The proof of the pudding, or the proof of the efficacy of our work with this sort of stuff, is how long you spend ruminating and how long you
mm,
spend fearing certain things. If you spend if you used to spend a day or more really, really worrying about something, but now you spend 10 minutes or an hour, then there's the proof of the pudding. You're practicing correctly. You're able to switch into that witness. You're able to breathe yourself out of those troubling environments, and that reset is the secret sauce. Being able to just drop thoughts, return to the witness consciousness, and breathe and soothe ourselves, calm ourselves. That really is the magic there.
mm. We've got another really lovely comment here about I've felt my body's been in flight mode constantly for the last 3 years, especially when I go to bed, wired and reactive. So, really looking
Mm-hmm.
forward to hoping this will actually be able to, alleviate that. It is another technique to be able to use, and also tackle some
Awesome.
of the side effects of, fatigue as well. There's lots of other
Yeah.
comments saying thank you, even feeling sleepy now, which is wonderful.
Not
And
too sleepy, I hope.
yeah, absolutely. No, sleepy, but just an absolutely
Relax.
wonderful way. And
Right.
one of the comments, breathe, count, and watch. I think that's some really good advice.
Yeah.
Josh, the other thing I really liked,
Simple.
and I think we'll maybe put it in the chat, is the PubMed um, website. That
Mm.
would be really good to go
Yeah.
and look up those journals and get some
Yeah.
further resources off
Fully
there. So
agree, Rachel. Yeah.
yeah.
It really helps if we're uncertain. Like we only had a brief, 50 minutes or so there. PubMed's phenomenal. It just really strengthens the thinking around why am I doing this, and what were the benefits again? What did Josh say? I can't remember this or that. Have a look at PubMed, and it will fill in the grey areas if you've got any after this call. Highly recommended.
Yeah, wonderful. Would just like to go around the room now. Is there anybody else that would like to either add something in the chat or has got something they'd like to say? Actually, we've got our hand. Oh, we've got clapping. Thank you very much. Yes, a big round of applause for Josh. Is there anybody else that would like to raise anything while we're here? Is there any questions for Josh while we've got this wonderful young man on the line?
Yeah, Josh, it's Paul here again.
Paul,
You
you're
mentioned
on. You
before
seem to be
about
on mute, Paul. Still, can you try and
No.
Yeah,
unclip?
I should be off mute. Can you hear me?
Still can't
Have
hear
a
you,
go.
Paul.
Let's try again.
Okay, I'm off mute.
There you
There we
go.
go.
Good.
I can hear you now.
Awesome.
Okay. Before you mentioned about having a word, and I know
Mhm.
from your course that's useful, and I just think that might be worth just elaborating on a little bit for the audience.
Yeah. Great, Paul. No, that's great. Yep. Run out of time for that today, but that's great. We've still got a couple of minutes. Yeah, there's another technique that I've called power words. And what that really is doing from a technical standpoint, that practice we did with the count. So we're breathing in, we're exhaling, and we're throwing a number. With a power word, we do exactly the same thing, but instead of using numbers, we use a word or two. Ideally, one or two, maybe three at the very most, but one or two is best. And those words relate directly to a situation that we might be in or that we might be facing in the future. And it's like a mental training tool, a focus tool that we can go to when we're facing a stressful moment or when we're actually inside some challenging treatment situation or whatever. We're in a specialist office, getting the latest results or whatever the situation is, and we've got this word that we can focus on, and it can develop a kind of quality that we're looking to embody. So words like calm can be really useful. Words like relaxed or tranquil or whatever quality we might need for some kind of situation or environment or some kind of soothing mechanism as per the first meditation that we're doing, we're soaking the body with that quality. So tranquility, we breathe in, we breathe out, and at the end of that exhalation, at that still point, tranquil or calm or still or whatever the quality we might find is the most beneficial, we drop that word into the nervous system at the end of each out breath. So great point to bring up, Paul. That can be a real game changer. We describe our experience with language. That's how we are. We're meaning making machines as humans, and taking a hold of our self-talk can be huge, can be completely transformative. So instead of I'm really worried about this thing that's coming in the future, there might be fear or something, and that again, we're not disallowing our feelings. Those realities are here that are with us, but we can navigate better if we're able to keep ourselves in an optimal healing environment, an inner healing environment. So fear we could turn into calm. We don't have to face fear head on and create, more demanding energetic situations in the body. We can just stay calm, or it could be just observe. We could breathe in and breathe out and say that to ourselves. Just observe. It can be anything. I'm not going to sit here and say this is how you do it. These are the words you need. That's going to be individual, case by case. But think of power words too. I'm glad we had the time to go into that. Appreciate it, Paul. They can be massive. So I leave that to you. The technique is the same as the one we did earlier on in the call, but we replace the number with a word, whatever kind of word you need. And the words can change. The words can change. It can be anything. It can be joy. It can be fun. It can be uplifting stuff. Laugh. You need more laughter. Whatever it is, whatever quality you need, you do the same thing with these words. Uplifting, buoyant, whatever kind of qualities you might want to embody, you can throw those qualities into your nervous system And that's based on the idea of the body's always listening to the mind. Okay, that's a key theme through all of these kinds of, they're called somatic practices, right? Body-based practices. It's good to get therapy. It's good to talk. That's great. I do it. It's good to do. But if we involve the body, if we take the body along for the ride, that's the game changer. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate that. That's great.
Wonderful. Josh, just on behalf of Look Good, Feel Better, but also our wonderful room online that we've got here today, I really want to thank you for your insights, for the way in which you delivered the session, and for bringing us along on this lovely journey. So everybody, if we could just give Josh a round of applause. Well done, Josh. Fantastic.
Thanks,
That's
everyone.
wonderful.
I really appreciate you tuning in. Been a real pleasure.
And look, everyone, enjoy your night tonight. I hope you go into it with a lovely, lovely, relaxed feel. And we look forward to seeing you at our next workshop. So take care, everybody. Ka kite.
Great.
Thank
All
you.
the best, everyone.